Hello everyone, it's Sophia here, and I have a story for you. I think we all have those mornings, right? Where everything seems to flow perfectly, almost like magic. Well, this morning started out just like that. The sun was streaming through the window, birds were chirping, and my tea was brewing perfectly. I felt a sense of calm wash over me as I sipped my Earl Grey, already anticipating a productive day ahead. You will not believe what happened next. In one swift, clumsy movement, as I reached for my bag, I knocked my entire mug over. And yes, you guessed it, right onto my freshly ironed white shirt. Honestly, it felt like time stood still for a moment. There I was, tea dripping everywhere, a spreading stain blooming across my chest like a watercolor painting gone wrong. The calm I felt just moments before completely evaporated, replaced by a mild panic. It was right before leaving for work, too. But you know what? Sometimes, these little mishaps remind us not to take life too seriously. So, let's begin our exciting journey of English improvement together. New videos are released daily, focusing on English speaking and listening skills to help you improve and enjoy your learning journey. Okay, so grab a cuppa, settle in, because this story, it's a saga. A tiffin box saga. You wouldn't think a lunchbox could be so dramatic, right? But trust me, this one was an odyssey. See, I'd had the same trusty tiffin for, well, let's just say it had seen better days. It was this faded blue plastic thing, chipped at the edges, the lid barely clinging on for dear life. It had faithfully carried countless lunches from soggy sandwiches in my school days to more sophisticated, or so I like to think, salads in my adult life. But lately, it had started protesting. Leaking. You know, the kind of slow, insidious leak that leaves your bag smelling faintly of last week's curry? Yeah, that kind. So, I decided, enough is enough. Time for a new tiffin. Sounds simple, right? Oh, honey, if only. I started online, naturally. The sheer variety. It was overwhelming. Stainless steel, glass, bamboo, bento boxes with compartments enough to house a 3-course meal. Insulated bags, quirky designs, leak-proof guarantees. I was lost in a sea of tiffin boxes. I spent hours scrolling, comparing, reading reviews. Is this one really leak-proof? I'd mutter to myself. Does this shade of blue clash with my bag? You know, the important questions. Finally, I found one. It was sleek, a beautiful deep red, with these clever little compartments and a secure-looking latch. The reviews swore it was leak-proof, microwavable, dishwasher safe, basically the holy grail of tiffin boxes. I clicked, buy now, faster than you can say, lunchtime. The anticipation. It was like waiting for Christmas morning. I tracked the package religiously. And then, the day arrived. I ripped open the box, carefully, mind you, didn't want to damage the precious cargo inside, and there it was. Gleaming, pristine, perfect. I held it up, admiring the way the light caught the deep red finish. It felt solid, substantial, like it could withstand anything. This, I thought, this was the tiffin box of my dreams. The next day, I packed it with meticulous care. A vibrant salad with grilled chicken, a small container of homemade hummus, some fresh fruit. I snapped the lid shut, feeling that satisfying click. Leak-proof, remember? I swung my bag onto my shoulder, feeling a little thrill of excitement. My new tiffin box, out in the world. I arrived at work, feeling smug. Lunchtime rolled around, and I confidently pulled out my beautiful red tiffin. I unlatched it, ready to enjoy my carefully prepared meal. And that's when I saw it. The hummus. It had escaped. Not a dramatic, gushing escape. No. A slow, creeping ooze. It had infiltrated the salad, coating the lettuce leaves in a creamy, chickpea embrace. The fruit, miraculously, remained untouched. But the salad, oh, the salad. It was a hummus-soaked disaster. My heart sank. Leak-proof? Lies. All lies. I stared at the offending tiffin box, feeling utterly betrayed. All that anticipation, all that excitement, for this? I ate the fruit. No way was I letting good fruit go to waste. And then I spent the rest of the day trying to discreetly clean the hummus residue from my bag. It wasn't my finest moment. That evening, I reread the reviews. Had I missed something? And then I saw it. One small, almost insignificant line. Ensure the silicone seal is properly placed before closing. The silicone seal. I'd been so excited. I hadn't even noticed the little removable silicone ring inside the lid. In my haste, I'd put the lid on without it. No wonder it had leaked. I felt like a complete idiot. You know that feeling? When you realize you've created a whole drama out of something completely avoidable? Yeah, that one. I carefully washed the tiffin box, placed the silicone seal in its rightful place, and packed it again for the next day. This time, no leaks. The salad remained pristine, the hummus contained. It was a tiffin box triumph. But you know what's funny? Even though it's this fancy, sleek, perfectly functional tiffin, I sometimes miss my old, battered blue one. It was leaky, yes, and chipped, and probably harbored all sorts of bacteria. But it was mine. It held memories of packed lunches from my mom, stolen fries from my best friend in high school, leftover takeout from late nights at the office. It was a silent witness to so many moments. This new tiffin box? It's still building its story. It's holding new lunches, new memories. It's witnessed shared meals with colleagues, picnics in the park, quiet lunches at my desk while I brainstorm. It's slowly becoming mine too. And that, I think, is the real point. It's not just about the tiffin box, is it? It's about the little rituals, the everyday moments, the memories we create around the simplest things. It's about the journey, even the messy, hummus-soaked parts. So, yeah, a tiffin box. It seems like such a small, insignificant thing. But sometimes, the smallest things can hold the biggest stories. And this one taught me a little lesson about patience, about paying attention to the details, and about appreciating the journey, even when it involves a little bit of spilled hummus. You know what I mean? It's the little things, right? The little things that make up a life. And sometimes, those little things come in a perfectly sealed, deep red tiffin box. But, I'll tell you a secret, sometimes I still look at pictures of cute, quirky tiffin boxes online. Just in case, you know? You never know when you might need another tiffin box adventure. And who knows, maybe the next one will be even more dramatic. Stay tuned. I'll keep you posted. Now, tell me, what's your most memorable lunchbox story? I'm dying to hear it. Spill the tea, or the hummus, as the case may be. Okay, so, grab a cup of something warm, settle in, because this is a story. A saga, really, my basketball saga. Now, I wasn't exactly born with a basketball in my hands. More like a well-worn copy of Anne of Green Gables, truth be told. But there was this one summer. I must have been, about 12, all gangly limbs and awkward enthusiasm, you know, that age where you're convinced you can conquer the world but tripping over your own feet half the time. Anyway, this summer, basketball became the thing. All thanks to my cousin, Liam. Liam was everything I wasn't. Confident, athletic, ridiculously good-looking. The kind of kid who could probably charm the birds out of the trees. And he was amazing at basketball. He'd spend hours on the court down the street, dribbling like the ball was glued to his hand, sinking shots from what felt like miles away. I'd watch him sometimes, mesmerized. The air at the court always had this specific smell, you know? Like sun-baked asphalt and sweat and, I don't know, maybe a hint of old chewing gum? And the sound, the constant thwack 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 of the ball, the squeak of sneakers, the occasional shout of triumph or frustration. It was intoxicating. One sweltering afternoon, I was sitting on the sidelines, nursing a lukewarm can of soda, watching Liam practice. He finished a particularly impressive series of dribbles and grinned. Wanna try? My heart did a little flutter kick thing. Me? Oh, no. I'm, not really the basketball type. I gestured vaguely at my book. More the literary type. Liam laughed. Come on, just try. It's not rocket science. Famous last words, right? He tossed me the ball. It felt surprisingly heavy, unfamiliar in my hands. I tried to dribble, and, well, let's just say it wasn't pretty. The ball bounced off my foot, then my knee, before rolling ignominiously into a puddle. Liam was trying not to laugh, I could tell. I felt my cheeks burn. But something shifted in me then. A stubborn little flicker of determination. Show me again, I mumbled, retrieving the soggy ball. So he did. He patiently showed me how to position my hands, how to use my fingertips, how to keep my eyes up. He explained the different types of dribbles, the crossover, the behind the back, which looked utterly impossible to me at the time. We spent the rest of that afternoon, and many afternoons after that, practicing. And it was hard. So hard. My hands ached, my arms felt like lead, and my coordination? Let's just say it was often Mia. I'd trip over my own feet, dribble the ball off my shin, throw air balls that wouldn't have hit the backboard even if it had been 10 feet closer. There were definitely moments of frustration. Moments where I wanted to chuck the ball into the nearest ditch and go back to my safe, predictable world of books. But there were also tiny victories. The first time I managed a somewhat controlled dribble across the court without losing the ball. The first time I made a basket, even if it was a lucky shot. The feeling of the ball swishing through the net, the satisfying whoosh. It was addictive. Slowly, painstakingly, I started to improve. Liam was a surprisingly good teacher, patient and encouraging. He'd celebrate my small successes with high fives and genuine enthusiasm. He even started calling me rookie, which, I guess, was a step up from being the clumsy bookworm on the sidelines. The court became my second home that summer. The smell of asphalt and sweat became comforting. The rhythmic thwack 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 of the ball a soundtrack to my days. I'd practice by myself sometimes, too, pushing myself to dribble faster, to shoot from further away. I wasn't Liam, not even close, but I was getting better. I was finding my rhythm, my own way of moving with the ball. There was this one particular evening, the sky streaked with orange and purple, the air thick with the promise of a summer storm. I was practicing my free throws, focusing on my form, the arc of the ball. I shot, and, swish. Another shot, swish, and another, swish. I sank 10 in a row. I turned to Liam, a grin splitting my face. Did you see that? He clapped me on the back. Yeah, rookie, you're getting good. That feeling, you know? The feeling of accomplishment, of seeing your hard work pay off. It was exhilarating. It wasn't just about the basketball anymore. It was about pushing myself beyond my comfort zone, about discovering something I didn't know I was capable of. It was about finding a different kind of confidence, a confidence that had nothing to do with books or words, but with the feel of the ball in my hand, the rhythm of my body, the swish of the net. The summer eventually ended, as all summers do. Liam went back to his town, and the basketball court became a little quieter. I never became a basketball star, not even close. I wasn't destined for the WNBA or anything. But that summer, on that sun-baked court, I learned more than just how to dribble a ball. I learned the value of perseverance, the thrill of pushing my own limits, the joy of finding something unexpected, something that challenged me and changed me in ways I couldn't have imagined. And you know what? I still have that feeling sometimes. That feeling of quiet confidence, of knowing that even the clumsiest bookworm can surprise herself. It's a feeling that stays with you, like the faint smell of asphalt and sweat on a warm summer evening. So, yeah, that's my basketball story. Not exactly a fairy tale, but definitely a chapter worth remembering. What about you? Got any hidden talents lurking beneath the surface? You never know what you might discover if you just try. Hey everyone, learning a new language can feel like climbing a mountain, right? But the more you try, the closer you get to your dreams. Think about it. Every word you learn, every sentence you speak, it's a step forward, a step closer to that summit of fluency. It's a journey, not a race, and every bit of effort you put in truly makes a difference. You've got this. You know what's a fun and easy way to practice speaking every single day? Narrating your daily routine. Seriously, try it. While you're making breakfast, imagine you're explaining what you're doing to someone in English. Okay, first, I'm going to grab the eggs. Now I'm whisking them. Even something as simple as this can boost your confidence and get you thinking in English without even realizing it. It's like having your own little English speaking show, just for you. Introducing yourself to strangers can be a bit nerve-wracking, can't it? Do you also find yourself perfectly understanding what others say in English, but hesitate when it's your turn to speak? It's totally normal. So many learners feel the same way. Remember, every conversation is a chance to practice, and every hello is a victory. And you know what? I was thinking the other day about how sometimes hearing your own voice can be surprising. It makes you more aware of your pronunciation and flow. Have you ever recorded your own voice speaking English? It can be a really helpful tool to track your progress and pinpoint areas you want to focus on. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your experiences. Okay, so, you know how sometimes you get these urges? Like a sudden, overwhelming need to do something? That's what happened to me last spring. It was a DIY herb garden urge, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, or, well, maybe a ton of potting soil would be a better analogy. It all started innocently enough. I was scrolling through Instagram, you know, the usual time suck, and I kept seeing these gorgeous pictures of people's herb gardens. Lush basil cascading over terracotta pots, tiny rosemary bushes practically vibrating with fragrance, delicate cilantro flowers reaching for the sun. It was mesmerizing. And then, bam, the urge. I needed an herb garden. Like, yesterday. Now, I'm not exactly known for my green thumb. In fact, my history with plants is complicated. Let's just say I've accidentally murdered more succulents than I care to admit, but this time felt different. This time, it was personal. This time, I was determined to succeed. So, fueled by Instagram inspiration and an almost irrational level of optimism, I marched myself down to the local garden center. Oh, the sensory overload. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and something green. Is green a smell? It is there. Rows and rows of plants, bursting with life. Tiny green shoots reaching out like they were trying to grab me. I felt like a kid in a candy store, except instead of candy, it was, well, plants. Lots and lots of plants. I grabbed a cart and started piling it high. Basil, obviously. Rosemary, because who doesn't love rosemary? Thyme, oregano, mint. I even threw in some chives because they looked cute. And then, the pots. Terracotta, plastic, ceramic. I went a little crazy, I'll admit. My cart was overflowing, a chaotic jumble of greenery and earth-toned containers. The cashier gave me this look, like, honey, are you sure you know what you're doing? And, honestly, I didn't, not really, but I smiled confidently and said, absolutely. Fake it till you make it, right? Back home, the reality of what I'd done started to sink in. I had all these plants, all these pots, and absolutely no idea what to do next. My Instagram inspiration had conveniently left out the actual doing part. So, what did I do? I did what any self-respecting millennial would do. I consulted YouTube. Hours later, after watching countless videos on soil mixtures, drainage, and proper planting techniques, I felt slightly less clueless. Armed with newfound knowledge, and a slight headache from information overload, I finally got to work. My balcony became my makeshift gardening studio. I spread out newspapers, filled pots with soil, and carefully nestled each little herb plant into its new home. It was messy. There was dirt everywhere. My hair was full of leaves. But you know what? It was kind of fun. I felt a strange sense of peace, a connection to the earth, or at least to the potting soil on my balcony. The first few days were bliss. I watered my little herb babies religiously, misting their leaves and whispering words of encouragement. I even started talking to them. You're doing great, little basil. Look at you, rosemary, growing so strong. I know, I'm a little weird. But hey, don't judge me. They were my herbs, and I was proud. Then, disaster struck. I overwatered the mint. Like, really overwatered it. It went from a vibrant green to a soggy, wilted mess. I was devastated. I'd killed it, my first casualty. I felt like a terrible herb parent. But then, a funny thing happened. I didn't give up. I pulled out the drowned mint, replaced it with a new one, and vowed to learn from my mistake. And guess what? I did. Slowly but surely, my herb garden started to thrive. The basil grew bushy and fragrant. The rosemary reached towards the sky. The thyme and oregano filled the air with their earthy scent. Even the chives, bless their little heart-shaped leaves, were doing well. It wasn't perfect. There were still some hiccups along the way. I accidentally pruned the basil too aggressively, oops. And a rogue aphid infestation threatened my entire operation, panic. But with each challenge, I learned something new. I discovered the joy of experimenting, the satisfaction of nurturing something from a tiny seedling to a flourishing plant. And you know what the best part was? Using my herbs. That first time I snipped off a few basil leaves and added them to my pasta sauce. Oh, my goodness. It was like a culinary revelation. The flavor was so fresh, so vibrant, so real. It was nothing like the dried herbs I'd been using before. It was a taste of summer, a taste of my own hard work. My little herb garden became my sanctuary. A place where I could escape the stresses of everyday life and reconnect with nature, even if it was just on my tiny balcony. I'd sit out there in the mornings, sipping my coffee, surrounded by the scent of herbs, listening to the birds chirping. It was pure bliss. Now, looking back, I realized that my DIY herb garden was about more than just growing herbs. It was about learning, about growing, about connecting with something bigger than myself. It was about finding joy in the simple things, the everyday miracles that often go unnoticed. It was about realizing that even someone with a less than stellar track record with plants can create something beautiful and life-giving. So, yeah, that's the story of my DIY herb garden. It was messy, it was challenging, it was definitely a learning experience. But it was also one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. And you know what? I think I might actually have a green thumb after all. Maybe, just maybe. Don't tell my succulents, though. They might not believe me. Okay, so, picture this. Rome. The sun, like, dripping golden honey all over these ancient terracotta rooftops. The air, thick with the scent of jasmine and espresso. And me, standing awkwardly in a tiny, bustling kitchen, clutching a wooden spoon like it was a lifeline. This was the day I took a cooking class, and honestly, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. See, I'm not exactly gifted in the kitchen. My idea of gourmet is toast with avocado. Maybe a fried egg if I'm feeling ambitious. So why a cooking class in Rome? Well, I figured, when in Rome, right? Do as the Romans do. Or at least, try to. I'd found this charming little place online, tucked away down a cobblestone alley, run by this Nonna, a grandmother, named Signora Emilia. The website promised an authentic Italian cooking experience, complete with homemade pasta and family recipes passed down through generations. Sounded idyllic, didn't it? The reality? Slightly more chaotic. I arrived a little early, heart thumping like a drum solo, and found myself in a kitchen smaller than my bathroom back home. It was packed. There were maybe 8 other people, all chattering excitedly in a mix of languages I couldn't quite place. The air was thick with the smell of garlic, onions, and something sweet and fruity I couldn't identify. Signora Emilia, a tiny whirlwind of a woman with flour dusting her apron and a smile that could melt glaciers, was directing traffic, her Italian rapid fire and full of hand gestures. I felt a little like I'd stepped into a Fellini film. I managed a nervous buongiorno, which was met with a flurry of greetings and welcoming smiles. Everyone seemed so competent. They were already tying aprons, chatting about their culinary adventures, wielding knives with a confidence that made me want to hide my wooden spoon. Signora Emilia, bless her heart, noticed my deer in the headlights expression. She grabbed my hand, patted it reassuringly, and said something in Italian that I'm pretty sure translated to, "Don't worry, child, you'll be making pasta like a pro in no time." Then, she handed me a glass of wine. See, already, things were looking up. We started with the pasta. Fresh pasta, from scratch. Now, I'd seen this done on TV, right? Looks easy enough. Flour, eggs, a pinch of salt. Mix it up, knead it, roll it out. Piece of cake. Or, in this case, piece of pasta. Wrong. So wrong. My dough was, well, let's just say it resembled something more akin to glue than pasta. Sticky, lumpy, refusing to cooperate. Meanwhile, everyone else seemed to be effortlessly producing these beautiful, smooth sheets of dough. I glanced over at the woman next to me, a bubbly Australian named Sarah, who was already expertly shaping her pasta into perfect little orecchiette. Yours looks interesting, she said diplomatically, suppressing a giggle. I sighed. It's a work in progress, I mumbled, trying to discreetly scrape some of the stickier bits off my hands. Signora Amelia, ever vigilant, appeared at my side, her eyes twinkling. She took one look at my doughy disaster and, without a word, started kneading it with the strength and precision of a seasoned baker. Within minutes, my gluey mess had transformed into a smooth, pliable ball of dough. Magic. Pure magic. You must be firm with the dough, she explained, her voice warm and patient. Like you are firm with life. She winked, and I couldn't help but laugh. She was right, of course. I was being a bit too tentative, a bit too afraid to really get my hands dirty. Emboldened by Signora Amelia's pep talk, and maybe the wine, I attacked the rolling pin with renewed vigor. It wasn't perfect, mind you, but eventually, I managed to produce something resembling pasta sheets. Not as elegant as Sarah's, perhaps, but definitely an improvement on the gluey monstrosity I'd started with. Next came the sauce. A rich, vibrant tomato sauce, simmering on the stove, filling the kitchen with the most incredible aroma. We chopped fresh basil, crushed garlic, stirred in plump, juicy tomatoes. It was a sensory overload in the best possible way. The sizzle of the garlic in the olive oil, the vibrant red of the tomatoes, the fragrant basil. It was intoxicating. As we worked, we chatted, sharing stories, laughing, swapping travel tips. The initial awkwardness had melted away, replaced by a sense of camaraderie. We were a motley crew. A couple from Canada, a solo traveler from Japan, a family from Germany. But we were united by our love of food and our shared adventure in this tiny Roman kitchen. And then came the moment of truth. Tasting. We gathered around the small table, bowls of steaming pasta piled high, the aroma filling the air. I took a tentative bite. And, oh, my goodness, it was heavenly. The pasta, perfectly al dente, the sauce rich and flavorful, bursting with the freshness of the ingredients. Even my slightly misshapen pasta tasted amazing. We ate, we laughed, we shared stories. We talked about our travels, our families, our dreams. It was more than just a cooking class, it was a connection, a shared experience that transcended language and culture. We were strangers, brought together by a shared love of food, and by the end of the evening, we felt like old friends. As I walked back to my hotel, the Roman streets bathed in the soft glow of the streetlights, I felt a sense of accomplishment. Not just because I'd managed to make pasta without completely destroying the kitchen, but because I'd stepped outside my comfort zone. I'd embraced the chaos, the unknown, and I'd been rewarded with an experience I'd never forget. So, yeah, the day I took a cooking class in Rome, it was more than just about the food. It was about connection, about laughter, about embracing the messy, imperfect beauty of life. And you know what? I think I might even try making pasta again back home. Don't tell anyone, okay? It'll be our little secret. But honestly, after that experience, I think I might just have a little bit of Signora Amelia's magic in me now. And who knows? Maybe, just maybe, I'll even graduate from avocado toast. Hey everyone. Sending out a huge wave of encouragement to all of you amazing learners who are actively practicing your English speaking skills. Remember, learning a language is a journey, not a destination. Think about it. It's not about reaching some perfect endpoint, but about enjoying the process of discovering new words, expressions, and ways to connect with others. Each conversation, each attempt, each little step forward is a victory in itself. So, embrace the journey and celebrate every milestone. And you know what? Here's a fun, simple way to practice every single day. Describe what you see outside your window. Honestly, it's easier than you think. While you're sipping your morning coffee, or even waiting for the bus, simply look around and describe the trees, the buildings, the people passing by, anything that catches your eye. It's a fantastic way to build your vocabulary and fluency without even realizing you're studying. It's like turning your everyday life into a language learning adventure. Starting a conversation with new people can feel a little daunting, can't it? I totally get it. Do you also find that sometimes you understand perfectly what others are saying in English, but then hesitate when it's your turn to speak? It's completely normal. It's like having all these amazing ingredients for a delicious cake but feeling a little nervous about actually baking it. But just like baking, the more you practice, the more confident you'll become. So, take a deep breath, and remember, Every conversation is a chance to learn and grow. You will not believe what happened the other day. I was at the coffee shop and overheard someone talking about their favorite English movie, and it sparked such an interesting conversation. It made me think, what's your favorite English movie? I'd love to hear what resonates with you and why. Maybe we can even discover some new films to watch together. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I can't wait to read them. Slight pause, a gentle sigh. So, you want to hear about my first volunteer experience? Grab a cuppa, because this one's a bit of a story. It wasn't glamorous, not at all. No cute puppies or planting trees. This was, well, it was at a senior care facility. Oakhaven Manor. Even the name sounds a bit heavy, doesn't it? I was 16, awkward, all elbows and knees, and brimming with this misplaced confidence. I thought I knew everything. You know how teenagers are. I wanted to make a difference, change the world. Honestly, probably more about padding my college applications. Shameful, I know, looking back. But hey, we all start somewhere, right? Anyway, Oakhaven. It smelled specific, not exactly bad, just old. A mix of antiseptic, floral air freshener, and something almost dusty, like old books. The hallways were long and quiet, the lighting dim. Everything was beige. Beige walls, beige carpets, beige curtains. It felt muted, somehow. Like all the vibrant colors had been slowly leached out over time. My first day, I was assigned to Mrs. Petrov. Tiny woman, barely came up to my shoulder. Her hair was this wispy cloud of white, and her eyes, oh her eyes, they were this startling, piercing blue. Like chips of ice in a frozen lake. She barely spoke English, just a few words here and there. Mostly Russian, which I, obviously, didn't understand. I was supposed to be reading to her. They gave me this thick, dusty book of poetry, Wordsworth, I think. Wordsworth to a Russian babushka who barely spoke English. Brilliant, right? I felt so clueless. I started reading, my voice trembling a bit, feeling so self-conscious. I wandered lonely as a cloud. She just stared at me, these icy blue eyes blinking slowly. I felt like a complete idiot. You know that feeling? Like you're performing for an audience that doesn't understand a word you're saying? I stumbled through a couple more poems, feeling more and more awkward with every passing line. Mrs. Petrov just sat there, wrapped in a thin, pale blue blanket. Occasionally, she'd mutter something in Russian, a soft, melodic murmur, like a forgotten lullaby. I kept glancing at the clock, wondering when my shift would be over. I know, terrible, right? Here I was, wanting to make a difference, and all I could think about was escaping. Then, something shifted. I was reading a poem about daffodils. I remember it vividly, the image of those golden flowers dancing in the breeze, and Mrs. Petrov reached out, her hand, papery thin and covered in age spots, touched my arm. Just a light touch, but it startled me. I stopped reading. She looked at me, those blue eyes suddenly filled with something. Sadness? Longing? It was hard to tell. And then, she started humming. A slow, mournful tune. It wasn't a song I recognized, but it was beautiful. Hauntingly so. And in that moment, all the awkwardness, the self-consciousness, the beigeness of the room, it all faded away. It was just me and this tiny, fragile woman, connected by a melody I couldn't understand but felt deep in my soul. I sat there, listening, completely mesmerized. The humming stopped. Mrs. Petrov closed her eyes, a single tear tracing a path down her wrinkled cheek. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to comfort her, to ask her what was wrong, but I knew she wouldn't understand. So, I just sat there, holding her hand, feeling the fragility of her bones beneath my skin. That first day, I didn't read another word of Wordsworth. Instead, I sat with Mrs. Petrov, holding her hand, listening to the silence, the occasional sigh, the rustle of her blanket. And you know what? It was profound. It wasn't what I expected. It wasn't about changing the world or making a grand gesture. It was about just being there, being present. The next week, I went back. And the week after that. And the week after that. I learned a few Russian phrases. Spasibo, thank you. Dobro utro, good morning. I brought her pictures of flowers, daffodils, tulips, sunflowers, and she'd point at them. A flicker of recognition in her eyes. Sometimes, she'd hum that same mournful tune, and I'd sit and listen, feeling a connection I couldn't explain. One day, I arrived, and Mrs. Petrov's bed was empty. The nurse told me she'd passed away peacefully in her sleep. I felt a pang of sadness, a strange emptiness. I hadn't known her long, but she'd touched me in a way I couldn't have anticipated. You see, I went into Oakhaven wanting to give something, to make a difference. But in the end, it was Mrs. Petrov who gave me something. She taught me the power of simply being there, of listening, of connecting with another human being, even without words. She showed me that sometimes, the smallest gestures, the quietest moments, can have the biggest impact. It wasn't the volunteer experience I expected. It wasn't about saving the world or racking up resume points. It was about connection. About humanity. About recognizing the beauty and the fragility of life, even in its final stages. And that, my friend, that's a lesson that's stayed with me all these years. So, yeah, Oakhaven. Beige walls, dusty books, and the haunting melody of a forgotten lullaby. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. And it changed me, more than I could have ever imagined. So, what do you think? Fancy another cuppa? This time, on me. Okay, so, you are never going to believe what happened when I went to the Redwood National and State Parks last week. Like, seriously, I'm still buzzing from it. I'd been wanting to go for ages, you know? Seeing pictures online just doesn't cut it. You have to experience those giants. So, I finally booked a little solo trip, packed my backpack, grabbed my comfiest hiking boots. The bright blue ones, remember? And hit the road. The drive itself was an adventure. Miles and miles of winding roads, these rolling hills covered in the most vibrant green grass you've ever seen. And the air? So fresh and crisp, with this subtle earthy scent that just screamed, nature. It was already so different from the city smog I'm used to. I had the windows down the whole way, music blasting, a totally cheesy road trip playlist. I'm not even ashamed to admit it. Finally, I reached the park entrance. And, okay, I'm not usually one to get all emotional about trees, but, wow. Just, wow. The sheer scale of these redwoods is just, I mean, there are no words. They're ancient, towering behemoths, reaching up to the sky like they're trying to tickle the clouds. It's humbling, you know? Makes you feel so incredibly small and insignificant in the best possible way. I parked the car and decided to take the Lady Bird Johnson Grove Trail. It was recommended by the park ranger, a super friendly lady with this infectious enthusiasm for the redwoods. She told me it was a relatively easy loop, perfect for a leisurely afternoon stroll. Leisurely, she said. Well, more on that later. The beginning of the trail was like stepping into a fairy tale. Sunlight filtered through the dense canopy, creating these magical dappled patterns on the forest floor. Everything was so green and lush, ferns, moss, even the air felt green somehow. And the quiet, oh my goodness, the quiet. It wasn't a dead silence, but more like a hushed reverence. You could hear the rustling of leaves, the distant chirping of birds, the soft crunch of my boots on the trail. It was so peaceful, so calming, like the forest was breathing around me. I was so caught up in taking it all in, snapping pictures like a crazy tourist which, let's face it, I was, that I totally missed the little wooden sign pointing towards a side trail. I only realized I'd gone off course when the trail started getting noticeably steeper and, less maintained. Less leisurely stroll, more Indiana Jones adventure. The path narrowed, the foliage got thicker, and the ground became covered in these slippery tree roots. I tripped, like, a million times. Seriously, I'm pretty sure I'm still covered in redwood bark. At one point, I almost face planted into a giant patch of mud. I caught myself just in time, but not before getting a decent smear of mud across my cheek. Attractive, I know. I was starting to get a little worried. The sun was beginning to dip below the trees, casting long, eerie shadows. I couldn't hear any other hikers, and my phone had zero reception. You know that feeling? That little prickle of panic that starts in your stomach and creeps up your throat? Yeah, I was definitely feeling it. But then, something amazing happened. I rounded a bend, and there it was. A hidden waterfall. It wasn't huge or dramatic, but it was absolutely perfect. The water tumbled over mossy rocks into a crystal-clear pool, surrounded by ferns and wildflowers. It was like stumbling upon a secret, a tiny piece of paradise tucked away in the heart of the forest. I sat by the waterfall for what felt like hours, just listening to the water and watching the light play through the trees. I forgot about being lost, forgot about the mud on my face, forgot about everything except the incredible beauty surrounding me. It was one of those moments, you know, where you feel completely connected to nature, to something bigger than yourself. It was magical. Eventually, the setting sun reminded me that I should probably try to find my way back. And guess what? Almost immediately, I spotted another little wooden sign, one I had completely missed earlier, pointing back towards the main trail. Talk about a facepalm moment. The walk back was much easier, thankfully. I even managed to avoid falling, which was a major win. As I emerged from the forest, the last rays of sunlight were painting the sky in these incredible shades of pink and orange. It was the perfect ending to a perfect, albeit slightly chaotic, day. Driving back, I was exhausted, my legs ached, and my clothes were covered in mud and who knows what else. But I felt alive, refreshed, inspired. It was more than just a visit to a nature reserve, it was a reconnection with myself, a reminder of the incredible beauty and power of the natural world. So, yeah, that's my redwood story. Pretty epic, right? It definitely wasn't the leisurely stroll I had planned, but it was an adventure. And sometimes, the best adventures are the ones you don't expect. You know what I mean? I'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. Muddy face and all. Maybe next time, we should go together. What do you think? Well, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for watching and spending this time with me. I truly appreciate you staying connected and learning together. If you'd like to stay updated with our daily English speaking and listening practice, I'd love for you to follow, like, subscribe, and share this video. You know, before we go, I was just thinking about all the exciting possibilities this week holds. What's one thing you want to accomplish by the end of this week? It is always so lovely to hear what everyone is thinking about, and it's a great way to practice putting your goals into words. Sharing them here helps build a little community too. See you tomorrow, and remember to take good care of yourselves, stay consistent, and keep practicing.